Minister, may we start with the latest events following the hijacking and the shooting of your planes. We now have a Swiss Air plane exploding in midair with 47 people killed. What do you want the governments of the world to do to stop this kind of thing?
Well, I think that one must find out what is it that can be done at the source. I mean, these people are not just individuals, madmen or bitter men as you have around the world every once in a while that hijack planes and take them somewhere. These are organizations dedicated to kill and to bring down planes for Israelis. But wherever Israelis are, therefore their planes must come down. They started with El Al, and now they've gone on. These people are organized. They have a base. The base is in the Arab countries. The Arab countries openly support them with money, with arms, with possibilities of training. That's where they start out from. That's where they come back to. The Arab countries and the governments don't deny that these organizations have their sympathy and aid and understanding. They come back after hijacking a plane or after trying to destroy a plane, come back to the Arab countries as heroes. These Arab countries have airlines, some of them at any rate. They have airports. Now, it seems to us that it is only natural for airlines, governments that have airlines, to say to Arab countries, if you want to participate in the community of air travel, you must play the game decently. I think now everybody feels that piracy of this kind and murderous acts of this kind, it cannot be limited only to Israel. I don't think it should have been allowed to go on even if it was only the El Al planes. But now I think it's quite evident. Of course, there's maybe another way out, but I can't imagine that a civilized world in the 20th century will adopt that.
What other way out is that?
That is to say, as in so many words, to the terrorists, well, if that's what you want, so we'll help in a certain way. We won't fly to Israel, we won't fly any mail to Israel. We'll help you boycott Israel.
If the world governments do nothing, what will you do?
We'll have to protect ourselves.
How?
We'll see, best way we can. Not attacking innocent victims, innocent passengers. That we don't do.
Could we presume that there might be something like the Beirut raid again? Might Damascus airport go up?
I don't know. I'll tell you honestly, if I did know what we're going to do, I don't think I would tell you.
Prime Minister, after gunmen shot up your plane in Zurich, you launched the massive retaliation raid on Beirut airport, and yet the incidents have gone on. Doesn't this show that a policy of retaliation against governments for the action of guerrillas just doesn't work?
What did we do against the Beirut airport? Was any person hurt? Our boys that went to Beirut, they didn't see to it that all the people that were wandering around at the airport should get out of the way?
But it didn't stop it, did it, Prime Minister? Are you saying that, in fact, you'll have to do something? Maybe somebody will have to get hurt?
No, no. We never go out to hurt anybody that's innocent. Sometimes innocent people are hurt, but that's not our intention.
Yeah, but...
And it's not because we don't do everything possible not to hurt people.
There are people, presumably in the Arab countries, who you would say are not innocent, who might get hurt.
I think our passengers on the Swiss plane, ours and other nationals, were innocent people.
Both sides in the Middle East talk about an imbalance of power. The Arabs say that they need new weaponry to keep up with you. You say that you need new weaponry to keep up with the Arabs. If you get the 50 Phantoms from the Americans, will this in fact correct the imbalance of power in your favor?
It will correct some of the imbalance. President Nasser said only several days ago, it isn't a question that he doesn't have enough planes. He said, we have planes, but I don't have enough pilots. Well, supposing he gets more planes, will he have more pilots of his own? He said that in an interview, I don't remember exactly where to, that it isn't a question of a lack of planes, but he doesn't have enough pilots. Israel has a lack of planes, and he says, has 2 pilots for each plane. And they're good pilots. That's true, thank God for that. But we've never asked, nor can we afford to have plane for plane and tank for tank. That's all nonsense. But you reach a certain point where the imbalance really becomes dangerous.
Is it dangerous at the moment?
It is extremely essential, very vital for us, that this imbalance is corrected. You see, after the war, what happened in Egypt? The Soviet Union not only replaced everything that Egypt has lost in the war, but sent them much more than they originally had. Therefore, Egypt now has more planes and more tanks and more guns than it had before the War of '67. And Egypt does not have too much difficulty in getting more, because Russia is prepared to send practically everything that Nasser asks for, and there's also an imbalance in conditions under which the Arabs get arms and which conditions we get arms.
You pay for them?
Yes.
Are you confident that you're going to get these Phantoms?
I'd like to say yes. I hope. I mean, we haven't yet had an answer from the United States government, but I'd like to say that I'm confident that we'll get them, but I think it's wiser to wait and see.
Prime Minister, what has been the effect of your policy of retaliation against Egypt?
Casualties of our boys on the canal have dropped to a very large extent. People forget there is, on the 10th of June, '67, the Security Council of the United Nations adopted a resolution for ceasefire. The Arab countries, Egypt and we, Syria and the others, but as far as the canal is concerned, Egypt and we accepted. We're prepared to go back to that any minute. We've been saying this over and over again. We want peace. As long as there's no peace, ceasefire. Then let us, all of us, abide by the resolution of ceasefire. Ceasefire means that everything on the canal must be absolutely quiet, no shooting. The minute that Nasser says that he's prepared, we'll be happy to comply. But if there is shooting, then nobody can really tell us, now look, you must do exactly the same what the Egyptians do. They're a solid wall of men and tanks and guns. You have fewer, but that doesn't make any difference. You must only use the same way of shooting and shelling. There are no rules of that kind. But as long as Nasser does not abide by the ceasefire, he announced publicly that he doesn't recognize that there is a state of ceasefire and keeps on shooting, there's nothing in the world that can force us to use exactly the same methods as he uses against us. Then we're at a disadvantage of manpower and number of tanks and guns. He has a solid wall of men and arms facing us. We haven't. Therefore, we must use the most effective way that we can in order that our men should not be there just at his service to be killed.
Prime Minister, is it your intention to bomb civilians when you have raids on the outskirts and suburbs of Cairo?
Is there a country in the world that was at war that can really say never, never, never have they, against their desire and against their intention, hit somebody or hit something that has resulted in a tragedy?
But isn't your present policy of bombing on the outskirts of Cairo likely to lead to other such mistakes or tragedies? I mean, for instance, it only needs one of your planes to be shot down and plough through a school or a hospital. These things must be reckoned for.
Yes, but we didn't put military installations next to Cairo. We didn't plan it that way. And the fact is that there was only one instance of this kind. And everybody that sends out, everybody that's at war, knows that this has happened. We're terribly sorry this has happened. How many instances do people know in the world where two parties that are at war, that one should warn another party, look, there's a bomb there, take care of it? Because as soon as we realized that this terrible mistake was made, we acted. I mean,
what was
it's the I don't want to be in the equal moral basis as our neighbors, but for 2.5 years there is shelling from across the Jordanian border, and civilians, our children, are in shelters, living in shelters for 2.5 years. I haven't seen, nor read, nor heard that the world was so horrified.
Do you consider you're on a superior moral basis to the Arabs?
I think yes. I'm not happy to say that, because we intend to remain in this neighborhood. And we're convinced that the day of peace will come, and we want to cooperate with them. And when there will be peace, I think there will be no difference.
And Prime Minister, Egyptian kids are taught to hate Israel. Aren't you in fact driving the lesson home to them?
That's the beginning of their hatred?
No, but it endorses it, doesn't it?
But do you believe that we wanted to hurt their fathers or their mothers, whoever were in the factories? Let me tell you a story that I only heard yesterday, which is typical. In one of our kibbutzim right across the Jordan, that has been shelled day and night, and there are children there that don't know any other home except air shelters. And at one of the shelling, the father with a little boy of 4 was in the shelter, and the child was scared and cried. And the father said, look, don't worry, these are not the shells from the other side, these are our shells. And the child said, do they have shelters for the children on the other side? He said, because, you know, the children are not to blame that their fathers are Fatah. Our children are not taught to hate.
Mrs. Mayor, I mean, if it was business, nobody makes a profit without risk, and the profit that you are going to make here is peace. Isn't it worth some risk for a short period?
We think enough of our people have been killed for no reason whatsoever. And I refuse to believe that this is something that only we can profit by it. As long as people believe that peace is something, some kind of luxury that the Israelis have gotten into their minds that that's what they would like to have. And therefore, if they want this luxury, they have to pay for it.
Prime Minister, you always talk about direct negotiations with the Arabs. But what possible incentive for the Arabs to sit down at a table with you when everybody you speak to in Israel conveys the impression that you're there to stay on the Golan Heights, in Jerusalem,